celebrating 11 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Halloran Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Pastor Christopher and Julia Battle.
Welcome to another edition of Anything is Possible. You are in for a treat today. Pastor and Mrs. Battle are with us today. The Battles are in the house. Chris and Toma, thank you for being here.
Our pleasure.
Would you please introduce us to your wife and describe her?
This is my lovely wife.
Oh, no. Do this for me. I like what you said before we started about how you presented yourself to her when you were trying to court her.
Well, I told the tale that I used this line that my father taught me.
Okay.
And it goes, the river is wide and I can't... No, that's a different one, isn't it?
That's a different one.
Yeah, but I'll do this one too.
Okay.
The river is wide and I can't step it. I love you, girl, and I can't help it. But the one I shared with you was, how would you like a man of my complexion going in your direction, offer you a little protection and show you a little affection? And she smiles every time I say that.
And what was your response to that? Well, please introduce us to your lovely
This
wife.
is Julia Toma Battle. We've known each other for some 30 years, and we've been married for 15. She's a great musician, great singer, great mother, great wife, and my best friend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why was it so important to you, by the way, for her to be here today? You wanted her here.
Yeah, I definitely.
That was
did.
a condition of the interview.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Tell
sir.
me why.
She's my backbone, and I need her. Plus, I didn't want to just talk to you. I'd rather look at her.
Would you please introduce us to the pastor of Tabernacle, Pastor Battle, and your husband, Chris?
Well, Mr. Battle, Mr. Christopher Ray Battle Sr. is the proud pastor of the Tabernacle Baptist Church here in Knoxville, Tennessee. He's just a good guy, community-minded, my partner, my best buddy, my best friend. So,
What do you
and a
like
great
most
dad.
about him?
His sense of humor.
Which you will see on the show here today.
I don't care what's going on, what's happening. If you need levity, he's the man.
One day I was on the radio and I get a phone call after the show from Pastor Battle. He said, I'd like to talk to you. Now, you know I don't agree with you. You know you're crazy, don't you? But let's talk. And so I came to see you, and the first thing I noticed was Samson. You're a pastor with these long flowing dreads. And I thought, this is a different kind of pastor. Can we start with the hair?
Yeah, I've loved locks forever, but was scared to grow them because of the churches I pastored. We had planted a church in Cincinnati, and that church eventually merged with another congregation, and the pastor had locks. And so I was free to grow them. And so I've grown them since about 7 years. When Katrina hit was around the time I started growing them. Yeah.
In fact, when you've had occasion where the locks were a deal maker or breaker.
Yeah.
If you get me, you get the locks.
You get the locks too. Yeah.
Let me tell you why I wanted you here. 2 reasons. One, I like you. Number 2, I think you represent so much possibility. Number 3, when I visited your church, there was so much love in that place. The love you show towards your congregation, the love they reflect back to you or engage you with, and the unique way you go about sharing the gospel. It just stuck in my head. Why are you a preacher? When did you become a pastor? Why did you decide to do that? You went to the great Morehouse College.
That's right.
You could have done anything. He's got the wit and the sharps and the intellect to do anything. You're a sharp guy. Why did you choose the ministry, or did it choose you?
The ministry chose me.
When?
I think I always wanted to preach. I had a great affinity for preaching when I was just a kid, and felt that there would be a call on my life at some point. And when I went to Morehouse my sophomore year, I felt the Lord finally leading me to the preaching ministry. So it was something I wanted to do, but I wanted to wait for that confirmation from God. And when I got it, I was excited. I didn't try to run. Some of my friends say you have to run first, but I didn't want to run. I ran to it, and been doing it for 30-something years now.
How would you describe your style of ministry?
My style.
Yeah. I love that look right there. He looked at you like,
I think that's about
go
it.
make it up, baby.
Yeah, man, pick something up real quick. I've learned to be me, and I don't know what that means, but I've just learned to be Chris Battle in the pulpit. I used to try to emulate other preachers and everything, but I'm pretty flat-footed, but I tend to use a lot of humor. I try to use a lot of humor and use relevant subjects and to be relevant to them in my sermons.
You were telling me he has a sermon series based on temptation songs.
Teddy Pendergrass, I know. I remember that one. I think it's some temptation songs.
Yeah, I think I did one too.
And
He has a Teddy Pendergrass sermon.
the song titles, and then the one you did for Christmas, Toys R Us.
Yeah, we did.
The Christmas prior to Christmas, about 4 or 5 sermons, and
Yeah.
Little Green Army Man, and
That was a good sermon.
it's a very good sermon, and a few more. What, the Yo-Yo?
Yeah, I did the yo-yo.
He
Rockin'
took
shit.
toys and
Built sermons
around them. I mean, we had toys everywhere.
how do people respond to that?
They
They
don't
love it,
forget 'em.
don't they?
Yeah.
And they don't
Don't
forget
forget
it.
They don't. That's
Yeah.
the key. That's the key.
Yeah.
There's been illustrations that I did not use because I thought the illustration was going to overwhelm the sermon. I did a thing on Moses with the serpents, and I had a guy who was going to bring a 3-foot python in. I said, I better not do that.
Snake handling
Yeah,
preacher.
snake handling preacher.
All right, so now part of the reason that I invited you here was because of your unique brand of ministry, and I just think you're an interesting person. But the other thing that hit me was the fact that you all have adopted so many children. I have record of 8, correct?
Correct. The 8 are adopted.
All right, so what I'd like to do is take a break because I want to talk about how love shows up in adoption, because you guys have taken the big step to welcome people into your home, and I want to talk about that. Chris and Toma Battle are my guests. This is Anything is Possible. We'll be right back.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
Understand this. What you do is up to you. You cannot allow your past to determine your future on that one point, because you're going to be angry about and angry with someone who has no control over you anymore.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. These are great stories about great people who prove with their lives that anything is possible. And here are 2 possibility people, Chris and Toma Battle. Thank you for being here. 8 adopted children. When did the adoption start?
Tell your story.
Prior to us getting into foster and adoptive care, we lost 5 trying to have a baby, and we kind of decided that we weren't going to keep trying. And we'd always talked about it from the beginning about adopting or foster care. And we got 3 little people who at that time were 6, 2, and 11 months. They were siblings. And that kind of started the ball rolling. That was actually October the 2nd of the year 2000. Their adoption was finally final in 2004. But in the meantime, we'd gotten their 2 brothers who were older, 10 and 12. So we adopted all 5 of them. Just in the last year and a half, they had another sibling that was out in California. And the father got in trouble, and they called us. Well, they knew to call the grandmother who has contact with us. And after, I don't know, a couple of meetings and getting all, doing all the rigmarole, which is a lot of rigmarole across state lines, but that adoption was final in January. We've had him for about 3 years now, since we've been here. Then in the middle of all that, when we stopped trying, I up and get pregnant.
Wow.
And have had she's now 10 years old, and then lo and behold, that happened again. And we have a 10-year-old and 8-year-old biological daughters. Well, the 8-year-old daughter was 2.5 months old.
I'll tell the rest. So I get a call one day from my pastor. says, hey, I got this guy on the phone. He's a member of our church, and I need you to talk to him because they just had a baby, and they're having some trouble. So it ends up that I go up to his home. He didn't live that far from our church, and he had to make a choice between his wife or the child. I said, well, I can take care of the child temporarily, but I can't take care of your wife. And so at that day, I took the child and took it home. And as a matter of fact, on the way home, I called Tom and said, baby, when you get home, we might need to get another baby bed. And that was what, seven and a half years ago. And we ultimately adopted her.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just wow.
Now we have 12 kids altogether. I have 2 biological sons as well.
So you have 12 kids all together. That is amazing. So I asked you the what. I guess what I need to know, why? I mean, you couldn't have children at first, and you lost 5. Was losing 5 painful?
Very much so. To the point that he was like, this is enough. You know, you really want to keep doing this. And it was very painful. And especially when you see young girls walking around with no problems, and here I'm having trouble conceiving and then carrying. Because with both of those girls, I had to give myself 2 shots a day for most of the pregnancy to maintain, to keep the pregnancy. So
why did you have the practical reason of you want a family, but you've kept on adopting. Why?
We love them. We've had 20-some children come through our home through foster or temporary, and we just fall in love with them. There's a great need in our community. I think there's some 30,000 children across the country that have no homes, and we have a God that loves us, and we just want to share that love with these kids who come through some horrendous situations. Those kids are our heroes. I mean,
Why so?
If you knew what they went through.
Do you share any of their story?
The oldest one, we share his story. This kid was literally tied or duct taped to a pole in his basement and whipped with an extension cord, and just left there. And then his mother was beaten because she turned him loose. Just horrendous stories like that.
That's just one
yeah.
day in the life of some of them.
My father said that love is the answer to everything. What have you found about the power of love to heal deeply broken places in children? Because the things that happen to us as children have a profound effect on who we are, who we become, what we believe, and what we believe is possible. So can you talk to me about the shaping and transforming power of love?
Well, how their love transformed us?
Yeah.
I think, what these young people have shown us is that even though they have biological parents that they know, they have still accepted us as parents and allowed us to share whatever we have with them. They've allowed us to invest our lives in them. And that's significant. They could have been rebellious. They could have just shunned us, And we even had that struggle at some points with all of them. The older ones particularly, you're not my dad, you're not my mom, but I'm going to love you anyway, So they have changed us, I think, more. I don't know, more than we've affected them, but.
And I would say that we were both raised by both of our parents, our biological parents. So what it's done for me is created a whole nother, you have to do a paradigm shift in how you parent kids that aren't biologically yours.
Right, because they don't have those reference points.
Right. And one thing that I used to say to our older boys, especially that one that was so abused, is because you're angry, you have a right to be angry. You're frustrated, you have a right to be frustrated. You've been through stuff that I've never been through. But understand this, what you do is up to you. You cannot allow your past to determine your future on that one point, because you're going to be angry about and angry with someone who has no control over you anymore. You got to live your life.
That's amazing. Let's take a quick break, and
Sure.
we come back, we'll finish the story. This is Anything is Possible.
Coming up,
And to give that love away, I think that's what love is. You have to give it away. It's no good if you don't give it away.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. The funniest couple in the world, Chris and Toma Battle. Here's what blows me away by what you just described and having adopted or having temporarily or permanently had 20 adoptees come through your home. I was expecting you to tell the story of the love that you've shown to them and the sacrifice that you've made for them. And you sat here and talked about the privilege of having them allow you to, that the privilege is yours.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Please take me deeper into that, because that is so powerful.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I look forward to the day that they're gone. I really do. I'll be 70, you know, but we have a couple who said already they're not leaving. I don't know, man. We're just weird like that. You know, I remember her mom was, you know, she was always taken in.
I never had
Children,
any
yeah.
assistance. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't realize I had one sibling for a long time because it was always someone else's. My parents were married 50 plus years when my mom died, and they had, even when he was in the service, my father was drafted in World War II. He's older, he's 90 now. They had kids that they took with them, had custody of, and took with them overseas while he was in the service. I mean, we have pictures of them. They were cousins, these play cousins that are now kind of like cousins to me, but they really were not related. They were just taking care of them.
So you don't know. So you don't know how to be in the world without bringing people in and loving them.
We've had people come who we met one day, and the next day they were living in our house with kids, you know, that just had some bad luck, and boyfriend or whatever threw them out. They didn't have a place to stay. I don't know. I guess it's just the way we're made up. And
What makes him a good dad?
He absolutely deliberately makes sure, especially with the girls, but even with the boys, that he touches them the right way, almost every day. I mean, he hugs them, kiss them. Daddy loves you. I love you. And I mean, you can walk through our house at any given time. They could be playing or whatever, and they might whisk through by the TV where we're sitting and say, "Hey, I love you, Mommy. I love you, Daddy," because it's just the thing to do in the house. It's spontaneous. It's cute. It's not always when they're about to get in trouble. I mean, it's, you know, I just think but that comes from him doing that on purpose. Even our boys, intentional. The oldest boy, CJ, one of the first things he does when he's in our presence, I don't care where we are, and he lives in Cincinnati, when he comes in, I get a kiss, Daddy gets a kiss. And he's 27 years old. Wow. That's just the way it is, and it's deliberate on his part.
I never heard my father say, "I love you." And I know I went home a couple of years ago. I said, "I'm gonna see what happens." So I went up to him. I said, "Daddy, I love you." He said, "Thank you." You know, I know he does, but you know. And I said, "I'm gonna." I made my mind up a long time ago.
What makes her a good mom?
What makes her a good mom is her love, her concern, and she's great with paperwork. Man, she can fill out some papers, you know, and she's very detailed.
What makes her a great mom? She can fill out some paperwork.
You know, well, when you're dealing with
I'm sorry.
It's the technical stuff, you know. When you're dealing with particularly with adopted kids, and there's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
I want to thank you guys for being here today. I mean, I think the possibility of great love shows forth in your life. And before you leave, I would love for you to do this. Tell me what you've learned about loving children. Tell me if you were giving a recipe, if you knew people were looking on, talk about the power of adoption because somebody chose you, and then talk about what you've learned about loving children.
What I've learned is that loving children gives me the greatest joy. That may be selfish, but I have learned that when you give of yourself, when you give of who you are, when you share the God that's in you with others, that there's a sense of satisfaction, sense of wholeness and completeness. And to give that love away, I think that's what love is. You have to give it away. It's no good if you don't give it away.
Has adoption helped you understand God's love for us better?
I think in a way you have to take on, I mean, there's a whole new, you're getting rid of the old, you're taking on the new, the characteristics that you had before don't play the greater part of who you are. You're into another family, another set of values, another system. Our children are lucky enough to have, except for my mom now, but they had 4 grandparents, really 5, the ones that are siblings, because their grandmother's still involved in their life as much as she possibly can be. She's not here. But, and just even though everything is different, it's in most ways better for them in the long run. And that's something that's another thing you have to realize. They might not realize it immediately. It might be until they get grown. One of our sons is in college. He's the second of the adopted ones. Just texted me about a month ago and said, "Well, Mom, it's been about 10 years since I came to live with you and Dad, and I just want to say I love you. I thank you." And that almost that just erased whatever was going on that was aggravating at the moment. I could care less, because just that little bit of appreciation just kind of said, I guess we did the right thing.
I want to thank you guys for coming. I think there was something so beautiful in what you just said that was like a passing thought. You said the second one called us from college. I mean, just the possibility of your whole life changing, and now you're in college and you see whole new possibilities because you fell under the awesome gravitational force of love. And thank you for sharing that, because that is possibility. God bless you guys. It's been a pleasure having you here. We'll see you next time.